the Everyday Alchemist Podcast, where we empower you to tap into the alchemist inside of you, because we all are magicians. Sometimes we need a reminder, and we tend to remind you on every episode. So today we are going to do just that. We have a very special guest joining us all the way from Canada. We've got Heather, who is a highly intuitive healer, a medium, a channel, a teacher, a catalyst, and a spiritual guide. She draws her grounding and expertise from 38 years of experience from being a registered nurse, primarily working with child with complex medical needs, and bridges the gap between spiritual and the physical world, which I'm really interested to dig into. Heather has studied and trained using a wide variety of healing modalities, include Reiki, integrated healing, energy healing, and theater healing. So hello, Heather. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, it's wonderful to be here.
We started off having such a great conversation before we started recording. I wish we'd actually started recording earlier, because there was some juicy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to just point out, it is 1:11 at the moment while we're actually starting this podcast.
So we've had 444 and now we have 111 happening.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. So the angels are definitely around us. So just going back to 444, I'm just going to tell the audience what actually happened. So It was a bit of a hectic morning for me here, because a few things happened where my mum was supposed to look after my daughter, and unfortunately she had to catch a flight to be somewhere urgently, and I was sort of panicking about who's going to look after my daughter. Anyway, I got around to doing my husband and my sister, but while I was panicking and messaging Heather, I was going, angels, I just need a sign. I need a sign. I looked up on our chat, on our WhatsApp, and it said Heather was online last at 4:44 p.m. So it really gave me some hope. That was my sign to say, breathe, check in to yourself. We are around you. So, after that, everything kind of fell into place, because I surrendered and I said, you guys take charge. I'm going to step back. And it just so happened, I was supposed to drop my daughter off to my sister's house, but she's actually fallen asleep. And I know she's going to have a long sleep because she did not sleep well last night. So it all worked out. I did not need to panic.
Mm-hmm.
So Heather, I was sharing that with you, and you said you did pull a card which sort of resonated with that message. Did you just want to share a little bit about that?
Actually, the card resonates with the message, but also some of the information that I was feeling into and channeling about what, um, you know, as we were talking about what we would talk about, because there's just so many things that we can talk about all day long. The messages that came in are just so on point with what you experienced today as well. So you'll get chills by the end, I'm sure, because
Absolutely. I know. Yeah, absolutely. I know that they are around us. And I also do a prayer before we start for them to take charge of the podcast, because I want the message to be from such a special place, to be so true and authentic. So I'm like, keep my words away, let it be your words that flow out. So I know it's going to be an amazing conversation. So should we get started?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll literally do your card. Show us your card.
Sure. Okay, so the card that I picked was an angel. And I'm going to try and do it without the glare. I hope you can see that.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Archangel Raziel. And Archangel Raziel, for me, when I feel into this angel and when I connect into it, really connects in a lot with the third eye, but also the brain area, and is the angel of knowledge. And what the key message I feel like this angel is bringing through was exactly what you mentioned. The angels, they are already preparing, they're already paving the way for us, they're already bringing us what we need before we even know that we need it a lot of the times. So it's to just really just trust that and then surrender to that process is really the message coming in. There's so much more along with the knowledge of this angel that we're gonna, I think, delve into. So I'll just say that for now, because I think that we're just going to continue working with this angel and this angel bringing channeling. So it's a really fantastic angel today, because going to be bringing in a lot of channeling. I do a lot of channeling and bringing the messages in, and I do exactly what you do to start with. I really feel myself balanced, grounded in my space, and then surrender. And I just call in, like, when you're doing stuff like this live, there's no time to prepare a script or anything like that. It's just, you just surrender to the moment, and you just trust that they are going to provide us with what they're already preparing, what we're about to say.
Absolutely. And it's happened to me so many times. I'd write a script for a podcast and I don't even ask, like, maybe I'll ask the first question and then, the rest of the questions get left behind because
Yeah.
the angels don't want us to talk about that. They actually want us to go in a different direction. So I totally resonate that we're going to go where we need to go. I think a good place would be to start would be, can we sort of go to the very beginning of your journey? Because I know in your bio that you sent through to me, you said your journey started 27 years ago after your first marriage broke down and your daughter was diagnosed with learning disabilities and epilepsy. Can we sort of go there so my audience can sort of learn, get to learn a bit about you?
Sure. That is my journey really into the conscious working with things on a deeper level, I guess. I really do believe, though, that we are born, like, I feel like I worked a lot of years getting back to where I was when I was a child. So I was actually born gifted with a lot of the gifts and abilities that I do have. But it's, through the process of life and traumas and situations, and I didn't grow up in a home that was openly supportive of delving into spirit and energy in this way. My family was very religious, and so I was sort of steered away from that. And a lot of that I recognize now was just fear based from my mother, because my mother is very gifted too, but she has basically lived her whole life trying to keep that inner voice shut down. Whereas I went the opposite way, and it really was trauma and a significant situation with my daughter and everything happening all at once. And what you were saying about earlier today, how everything was happening at once and you just felt like your whole, like, how am I going to get through this on a smaller scale? That was like a huge scale for me. And I felt like either I was going to come through this on the other side and I was going to be stronger, or it was going to break me. And I was feeling very broken when it all went down. I was feeling very hopeless. I was feeling very alone. My parents happened to be away on a vacation as my daughter was getting diagnosed, and my ex-husband and I had split up, and he was living thousands of miles away. So it was really a time where I felt very, very alone. And I started getting glimpses of, there's more than what meets the eye here, because my angels would still come through, like, strange things would happen. There would be weird synchronicities, and I would be kind of like, I'd start to notice, but then I'd be like, fear would come in from past programming and stuff like that. But I really got to the point where I just had to surrender, because there really was no other option for me other than to just say, I can't do this anymore. I can't live my life like this anymore. I am falling apart. And at that time too, with my daughter and her diagnosis, and the process through that was that conventional medicine was not answering questions. It was not providing us with that emotional, spiritual support. It wasn't healing her. Nothing was working. And so really it was the desperation of a mother for her child, which you can understand. It makes me feel emotional because I know
that. Yeah, I'm just resonating with each and every word. I'm actually feeling through what situation you would have been in when your daughter got diagnosed, and to be there by yourself, because it is life changing. It is scary. It breaks you into so many pieces. And I just thought, oh my God, I was there with Nick and my mum and dad. And for you to have to do that alone, I admire you and I honor you for what you went through and where you are today, because it is not an easy journey. And it is the mother in you that I mean, we had to get broken into pieces to become whole again, so we can be whole for our daughters. And I totally resonate with you, and I honor you, Heather, for your journey so far, because it's not easy. And you are helping other people, being a healer, and channeling other people. So, I mean, what a gift to come out of such a situation, right? I mean, there's so many directions I want to go with you. But can we just maybe step back for a moment and talk about your childhood? So you said you sort of had these gifts in your childhood. So what sort of gifts did you have? Did you see angels? Did you feel into stuff?
Well, so that was very interesting because I always felt different. I always felt like nothing in the world made sense to me, how people reacted to each other, how people spoke to each other. All of that stuff really didn't make sense to me. And I really didn't, like, I was like, even within my own family, I'm quite different than a lot of people in my own family. So, firstly, I just felt weird and out of place. And so then my feelings as a child was there's something wrong with me. So that's kind of where the trauma comes in. And my mother was always very vocal about anything that she perceived as from the devil. So even to the point when I first started opening up to this, aromatherapy was taboo. So everything was basically taboo. And like we grew up with 3 rules, and I never really understood it until I understood how powerful my mother is as a seer. Like she's a real prophet. Like she sees visions of the future. And so this terrified her. So we had 3 rules in my house: don't talk to strangers, don't take any candy from strangers, and whatever you do, don't ever do the Ouija. Like I was, don't touch a Ouija board. So I always thought, like, wow, those are, it was just like really like odd things like that. But as I got older and as I opened up into my gifts, I had a situation happening where like I would see people in my room or in my house at night or animals. And it was usually, like I realize now, kind of in a lucid state, but it happened in a friend's basement when I'd slept over there. And it's like, and when I say I see people, it's like I see them as much as I see you. Like I can tell you what they look like, what they're wearing. Like it's like they're there. So I finally got to the point where, why is this happening to me? They never spoke to me. It was just kind of disturbing. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I had this message: you need to speak to your mother about this, because I called into my angels. What do I need to do? Like I need clarity on this. And so, yeah, you need to talk to your mother. Well, my mother was the last person on the planet that I wanted to talk to about there being, people in my room at night. So I swear to God, it was like a 3-night thing. Next night I'm doing, calling invocation in, this is bothering me. I don't know what's going on with this. A message comes in again: you need to talk to your mother about this. And again, I was just like, I cannot talk to my mother about this. And so night number 3 comes along and I do the same prayer, same invocation, same answer: you need to talk to your mother. And I just thought, okay, all right, okay. 3 times I get the same answer. So I literally the next day phoned up my mother, and but I called into my angels and my guides, and I'm like, okay, I have to have this you want me to have this conversation with my mom. Show me, like, give me the words and help her to hear me. Because she's literally like, when I got into aromatherapy, like it was devil's work. Okay. So this is my mother, although she's gotten used to me because I'm quite open now, but I phone her up and I'm just like, okay, angels, guides, give me the words. So the first thing I started with was, Mom, I need your help. So now it's like, okay. And so right away she was like, oh dear, what can I, because my mother always wants to be helpful. And so I explained the situation, and I swear to God, she says to me, oh, that. And I'm like, that? What are you talking about, that? And so I used to sleepwalk for 18 years. I used to sleepwalk, and I would go to bed in one place and end up somewhere else. And
Mm-hmm.
my mother had always told me, I said, well, what would I do? And she's like, it was really weird. You would do the same things. Like you would go, I would turn on every light in the house. I would empty out the closets. And so I was like, yeah, I remember you telling me about that. And she said, well, so when I would ask you, Heather, what are you doing? You would say to me, I'm looking for the people. So when I was a child, my mother explained to me that I saw people
Wow.
and in my house. And then she proceeded to tell me that because my father was in the military and he used to be gone a lot. And she's like, Heather, it would always happen when your father was out of town. And because my mother, even though she hasn't embraced it, has the similar gifts, she believed me. She believed that I did see them. And
Mm-hmm.
so that part wasn't the problem. But she then said to me, it would always happen when your father was out of town, and it would scare the living daylights out of me. And so I was like, oh, so that was one of my gifts that I had as a child. And it came back it doesn't happen to me all the time. It's just a random thing that happens. But I realized why I had shut that gift down, why I had shut things down. And it was because as a little girl, I didn't want to scare my mommy.
Wow. So you're a
I didn't want
protector.
my mom.
Yeah.
So that was how I started. That's how I shut myself down. And I was really, and I can remember another incident where this guy was like doing cards and he's like, oh, I want to see who's psychic here. And it's like, pick the next card. Tell me what card I'm holding in my hand. And so everybody's doing it. And he's like, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And I was about 12 at the time. And he said to me, Heather, do it. And I was like, I felt nervous about it because I was just like, I don't know. And so I did it. And the first card, he was kind of like, hmm. And then the next card, and then he pulled about four cards in a row. And all of a sudden he yelled out into the bus, oh my gosh, she can do it. But
Wow.
I wasn't picking the card that was in his hand. It was like the next card on the deck. So I would say the ace of spades, and you pull a card and it was the ace of spades. And in that moment, this was a church bus. Like I was on a church with a bunch of church kids. And in that moment, I felt my entire energetic field collapse into myself because I didn't want to be weird. I
Yeah.
didn't want to be different. And so I feel like me collapsing like that is what I've been rebuilding ever since I started opening up, is to get back to that place where I am just my innocence and my childlike curiosity and wonder without fear that really shut me down. So
Wow, that's
yeah.
incredible. And
Mhm.
most often, I think our hearts have to be broken before it can open again, right? Like, I think that's
Mhm.
why so many people have to go through adversity for them to find because when you start searching, you kind of start remembering. Because I know we all come with this power, we all are alchemists, we all know this stuff. But as
Yeah.
we come in, they put a veil over us, and it slowly starts removing once you sort of tap back into your true essence again. And most often, to find the true essence, I believe you have to be broken and start all over again. Because as a child, when you're born with these things, but like you had to shut down your gifts to protect your mom. Most
Mhm.
often you get told, no, you're not seeing anything. No, no, there's nothing there. Children get told, no, you're imagining it, rather than getting encouraged to say, yes, actually, there might be something there. Let's explore it further.
Mhm.
So how incredible. I mean, so thank you for sharing that. Now, can we sort of talk about, so 27 years ago, that's when you sort of started. So would you say that was sort of like the big spiritual awakening that you went through?
Yeah, like spiritual awakening, but really starting to embrace who I really was.
Yeah.
Um, because throughout all of that, of course, I continued to feel like a misfit and continued to not feel like I was fitting in. With that, so the night, this was a miracle thing that happened, and it's only sort of been in the last couple of years that I really understand what happened to me this one particular night. So there was one particular night, and I'm going to try not to cry because it's it was a very emotional event for me. So I was in my daughter's bedroom, and she happened to be at this point, my ex-husband had moved back into the city where I live. So my kids had started spending time with their dad. And so this was probably about a year after she was diagnosed. And so I'd already spent a year now of this roller coaster, and things just kept I felt like every time I went to the doctor, it was like they would say to me, well, it could get worse, it could get better, or it could stay the same. And if it was like every appointment, it was just like bad news. And I know, you know what this like, you start going to these appointments and it's like every appointment is just bad news and more bad news and more bad news. And you get to the point where it's like you just feel like you're going to explode if somebody tells you one more bad thing. Like there's only so many bad things that you can take. So this was about a year after she was diagnosed, and my kids were gone to their dads. And so I was truly in my home alone that night. And I was in my daughter's bedroom, and this is where I was like the make or break moment. And I just remember I had started studying some quantum meditation, where you kind of disassociate yourself a little bit so that you can start witnessing. And I really had no idea. Like, I had started with Chinese medicine, to be honest with you, because it felt like the safest thing, because it was kind of like medicine, but it was kind of like Chinese medicine. So I didn't feel like it was too evil at the time. Yeah. And I was just looking for more answers. So I'd started this quantum meditating, which was kind of like a Chinese, it was Taoist practice and stuff. So I'm on the bed and I was on my knees. I don't even know why, but I was on my hands and knees, and I had my head down on the bed, and kind of in a child's pose. And I was just sobbing because I just felt completely broken. And then I started doing this quantum meditation where, like you kind of you start asking your questions like, I'm feeling really sad right now. And then you go into, who is this I? Like you start questioning, who's the I? Who's the I? And so then you start witnessing it's an interesting practice. But anyways, I just started doing this over and over, and I called into the aim to creator and, God and Jesus at the time, and whoever I knew at the time. And I just did this over and over and over again. And it was probably about 20 minutes, half an hour doing that. And all of a sudden, the brightest light came out and filled my entire bedroom. It just like filled the room. And it shocked me enough that I stopped and I kind of looked up. And as soon as I stopped and looked up, it disappeared again. But it was enough of a jolt that I was just like, whoa. What is that? And it was like I very, very much at that moment from then on became very conscious of myself as a being, and that's where my 27 years journey really of consciousness, that there's so much more out there, that, when we call into the angels, there is somebody or something is listening. Yeah. So, and, even through my nursing practice, like there had been just with my intuition, because my intuition is a really powerful thing. And I've always, even though I was not actively spiritual, I had learned from a very early on being a nurse to really trust my gut instinct, because I would just know when to be in the right room at the right time, or I would just have a feeling like, oh, we need to do something, when to push the doctors, so really I was still doing me. Yeah. And so that's what, and then I really started consciously, and then calling into my guides, calling into and feeling into the situations, and really started working. So I continued to work as a nurse. And then I had an experience with somebody on the ward doing Reiki, and I witnessed another miracle where we had a child who was very sick with like oncology and in a lot of pain. And I witnessed a Reiki master completely manage all of her pain without narcotics. And that also was another like, I don't know what this is, but this is something I want to know more about.
Yeah.
Because
So at that point, you weren't doing Reiki. Sorry, at that point, you weren't doing Reiki.
no, I wasn't doing Reiki. And so Reiki wasn't mainstream the way that it is now. I
Yeah.
had never even heard of it before. And so my very, very first experience was witnessing a Reiki master working on one of my children on the ward. And I just couldn't believe what I was witnessing. And of course I'm looking for answers with my daughter and I'm witnessing miracles here. And so that's how so my first experience with Reiki was actually taking my daughter to have Reiki sessions done with her as healing. So that was my segue into that.
That's amazing. I mean, I think like just like you know, I'm always on the search, or I was on the search any way or anything that could help my own child. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel, you know, they probably had to show you through that other child that there was something there so you could start exploring this world. I mean, I just remember just going back to that point when you were on your knees praying. I've been in that position so many times to this day. Like, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we got some news about Nishaya maybe needing surgery. Can't really go into it right now, but, you know, I was on my knees going, okay, once again, I'm kind of back where I was 2 years ago because she needed another surgery. And so I believe that is, even though it is I mean, I believe it's one of the most powerful positions to be in when you are on your knees, because you're going as a child in front of this power saying, you know, I am nothing but a child and you are here, you're going to take care of me. And for you to see the light, I mean, I think you were searching for a miracle. You just needed something to plug into to know that there's hope. So I resonate with that because that same thing happened to me the day Nishai got diagnosed. I prayed and prayed that night. I cried and I said, God, if you're real, show me. I just needed something to latch onto just so I could go on for a few more days because I didn't know what was going to happen. So similarly, I mean, my phone rang and it happened to be a lady that I worked with 3 years ago, and she was from the church, and she said, God spoke to me to call you. And I hadn't spoken to this lady for, you know, so many. And that was enough for me to go, okay, there's something there. So I love it how God gives you, when you ask, they say, you know, you don't get because you don't ask. So you always need to ask. And I feel like because you and me are on such a similar journey, like your stories are like, I could just change the characters and easily become you because I've been there. And I think there's nothing like a praying mother, you know, so
Yeah,
powerful. We can
yeah,
shift the world.
yeah, because it's so much coming from your heart, but this broken and shattered heart,
Mm-hmm.
but it's that heart centered please of, and I would definitely say that during that period of time in my initial stages of searching and looking, because that many years ago now, there wasn't it there's so much more mainstream healing, like acceptance of alternative healing and
Mm-hmm.
Reiki and different things that are out there that just those things didn't
Exist.
really, like, they were in the very, very early stages of, so I really had to seek it out. But in the beginning, it was definitely driven not for me to heal myself, but seeking for my daughter and seeking for her, and then gathering knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. And I did get to a point, because it was like a long journey, where I was like, I felt like almost like a jack of all trades and master of none, because I just had like, I try this and try that, and that doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and I went through really immense feelings throughout that,
Mm-hmm.
of guilt, of feeling not good enough. I felt like, even as a nurse, but when I thought about being a Reiki master and working with people, um, I would literally think, you are so pathetic, you can't even heal your own child or your own self. Like, why would you think that you could bring anything to anybody else? And so that was a huge, like, there was so much, I had so much guilt.
Yeah.
And it was guilt that I put upon myself, but it was guilt that was put upon me by other people, sometimes people in my family who were religious and felt like they were, I don't know if they thought they were helping me, but, even messages like that she was ill because of me, because I was starting to do these ungodly things and this was punishment. And so I had to go through a huge gamut of, and I realize now a lot of it was fortification. It was really building my internal strength and because through all that, every time I was sort of confronted with those moments, I had a choice. And that choice is, am I going to give in to that? Am I going to, shrink back into the corner and just, let everybody else take control or whatever? Or am I going to continue to stand in my, what I believe in and what I want to bring in and I continue to choose to be conscious on the path, on the journey. And even, I mean, I challenged Creator and the angels many times that I was calling out for them for help, and they weren't helping her. They weren't fixing her. And like I went through everything that you can conceive of through that. And I remember it was a girl who was a Reiki master who was working with Alyssa, and at the end of the session, she said to me, "Do you want, is there anything you want to talk about?" And I said, "Yeah, I would just, like, why are we doing all this? Like, I'm opening up to this. I feel like I'm being authentic on my journey. I feel like I'm listening to my guidance. I feel like I'm listening to my intuition, but I feel like I'm still failing." And she said, "Well, why do you think you're failing?" And I said, and at that point, by this point, my daughter was in school and she never, to this day, she can't read anything more than simple books and she can't barely add more than one and one.
Yeah.
But at the time she was getting to the point where she should have been able to start doing those things, and I would help her and work with her. And she said to me, "Well, what bothers you?" And I said to her, "She just isn't learning." And she looked at me and she just, without missing a beat, she said, "Heather, whatever makes you think that she's here to learn." And I was like, and I remember I just like, I kind of like looked at her and she said, "Heather, she's not here to learn. She's here to teach."
Oh my God.
And I was, so to her, suddenly it was like, it was irrelevant whether she could read a textbook. It was irrelevant whether she could, do multiplication. It was like, it forever shifted my perspective and my thoughts about what true healing is and what true life purpose and life journey is. And my daughter, and I know your daughter, they touch the hearts and lives of people in ways that are unimaginable and impossible, even. And it really, 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 that was like one of those, how there's like moments where you feel like you're not, am I getting it? Am I not getting it? And when she said that, it was like she flipped a switch. And I was just like, I just have to let her be, like, let her be the being, and just then work at supporting at her at being the best and most healthy being that she could be. So I continue to do stuff with healing and wanting to get her healthy and whatnot, but it did shift a lot for me, just recognizing that.
Do you know, I'm in shock because our stories, we've never spoken about this. And I can, like, Nick will be my witness to say everything that you've just said. I've gone through it to the point where the healer has told me she's not here to learn, she's here to teach. That's why when you were saying it, I was going, what? Like, this is just me sitting on the other side and going, that's my story. Same
Yeah.
thing. I was carrying the guilt on my shoulders of wanting to heal my child. And it wasn't until I had so many sessions with so many different healers, and this healer came along and she said to me, "Why do you feel like you need to heal her? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
makes you so special that you're going to heal her?" And I said, "Well, I'm her mum. I do Reiki, like the ego was coming out." She said,
Yeah.
"She's not here to be healed. She's here to heal you guys, to teach you guys." And
Mm-hmm.
even with the education system, I used to sit there with my child, reading to her, hand over hand, trying to do stuff, me getting frustrated, getting sad that she wasn't getting it. She was getting frustrated. Nick was getting
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, getting sad about the whole situation until I came to the realization she's a starseed. She's no, she's maths and English and all that stuff does not matter to her. She works with energy. She's an energy being.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you, the day I got to hear that I am not supposed to heal her, my
Mm-hmm.
shoulders dropped, literally dropped. And I felt this huge sigh of relief, like I could just live and let her live the way she is. She was going to teach people just being Nishaya.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing. I even went to the extent of pulling Nishaya out of school 2 years ago now because I just thought, why am I putting my child through this? We learn
Mm-hmm.
every day through stuff. We listen to so many podcasts. She's listening and she's resonating with the energy talk and the Reiki stuff because she's been a healer in the past life. She's an evolved old soul that's come here to learn to experience life on a different level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that because I totally understand that, and I understand exactly what you would have gone
Mm-hmm.
through as a mother, as a healer, and that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's I feel like that also shifted where my drive up until that point had just focused on her, heal her, that's when things really shifted for me. And I just, then I started looking at myself and at my life
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. So that was a huge shift for me. I love talking about life and these experiences and these challenges, and even as a nurse, then working with my families and working with children with complex needs, and working with a lot of children that have passed over, and
Mhm.
they became my teachers. Like then I just really, it was like the children have always been my greatest teachers, whether it's my children or the children that I work with in the hospital. And part of my mission now, like when you were talking about your events today and what was going on, and how you're getting kerfuffled, and then it's like you just took a step back and you like witness what's going on. And I feel like my mission now is to really integrate everyday life, like being spiritual and aware and open. It's not about when the crisis hits, or it's not about when
Mhm.
you go once a week for your Reiki session. It's about every moment of every day of your life and how you witness it, how you experience it, how you react to it. And that's really where I'm even shifting some of my teaching,
Mhm.
with working with healthcare workers who are also spiritual and healing, and how really those two things are all integrated and all interlinking, and then how we can optimize what we do, optimize whether we're, Reiki healer, or whether we're a nurse, or whether we're a mom, or whatever we are, like how to use spirit, how to use our guides, how to use our angels in everyday life all day long to
Absolutely.
make the best of to make everything the best that, I mean, and shit's still gonna happen. Like you and I both know that. Like it's like life is gonna happen. But then what?
It's how we handle it, right? We shouldn't be living
Mhm.
in two separate worlds. Our spiritual and our physical will need to integrate and become one. And yeah, that's
Yes.
what I'm trying to do as well, is not just find time to meditate and go, living in my spirituality. It's actually how you handle situations with, as a spiritual being.
Mhm.
Um, what would you say to someone if they are listening and they could be a mum, struggling, or a wife on the brink of ending, going through a marriage breakup, what would the message be today to help them and to find some hope out there?
What would my message be? My message would be the only thing that we can do truly is be present in this moment. And so this is where the practices, so for me, I started feeling into this and thinking about this a little bit. So there's crisis moments, and then there's everyday life, and then there's things that are some level in between. And I started looking at myself in a crisis moment, because I've had lots of them as a nurse. And then I look at my spiritual practice and how are those things. And I realize that when you're in a moment, and if it's like the worst moment and you just don't even know how you're going to get to the next moment, you don't. You just be in this moment, whatever that moment is. And how do I do that? The first thing that you do is, it's like chaos, 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 or you've got trouble with your kid, or you've got trouble with your husband. Take a moment. Instead of like instantly going to the reaction, or instantly like I've got to do something. It's like take a moment, almost like take like a step back, and then like feel into. So what do? Breathe. The first thing that we always have to do is breathe. And if that's all you can do in that moment is just breathe, just be present with your breath. So, we can feel in those moments like depleted, like we don't have the energy to carry on. We can't do this anymore. It's you take the step back, and then just like meditation doesn't have to be for a half an hour or an hour. Meditation can be 30 seconds, where you just take a moment, and it's like, okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Oh my God, everything's happening. Okay, stop, breathe, and just close, like, but if you can close your eyes, close your eyes. If you can't, just take some nice deep breaths. And as you're breathing, it's like you're present, like your breath. And if you just all you think about is just try to stop your mind from being all crazy and just think about breathing, because it'll shut down all that chatter. And then just feel it. And then I like to just imagine, like, this is life force. This is energy from Creator all around us, breathing in. So now you're like filling yourself up with life force. You're filling yourself up. So if you're in a really sticky situation, a bad moment, just stop to take a few deep breaths. And then once you take a few deep breaths, feel into yourself. Okay, I'm present. Forget about the past right now. Forget about what's going to happen in 10 minutes. Just think about what's going to happen right here and right now. And when I do that, feel into yourself, and then you have a moment to be like, kind of collect your thoughts. Okay, what do you need? I need help. We always we need help. So for me, in a crisis, I'm always really, really good about asking for help, because it's like shit's hitting my. But sometimes if it's just like little things, like little disagreements or little situations, it's like you forget that you have all of these allies and angels all around you. And even if it's a bad situation, like I raised 3 sons, and I have, in addition to my daughter, who are all adults now. And it's like, if you're having a situation with your teenager and they are driving you out of your mind, or you have to have a really difficult situation, before you hit the room, before you hit the conversation, stop. Take a few deep breaths, feeling into yourself. Okay, I'm here, I'm present. Feel, and even if you can't feel it, just imagine that as you're breathing in the energy that you need to get through the situation. And then ask your guides and angels, help me with this conversation with my husband. Help me with this conversation with my doctor. Help me with this conversation with my child. Give me the words that are the right words that are going to be in the highest and best good. Always aim for highest and best good. And then I also will ask them, help the angels and their guides to help them open their ears so that they can hear the messages that you're going to deliver. So I always ask for me and my ears to be open so that I can truly hear what my partner is saying or what my child is saying, and then give me the right words to bring in the conversation. But really, that's kind of like like just like if you're like in a pinch and you need to get through a moment, that stop for an extra 10, 15, 20 seconds isn't going to make a difference. But in the end, it can make a huge difference because in that period of time, you're now formulating, you're getting your allies in, you're getting present with the moment, and they'll start bringing you messages in like, this is what you need to do next, because you might be ready to go full bore in on your husband because of something that they did, and they might be completely in the wrong. But when you feel into it and you start to calm down, you might get the message, this is not the moment, because they're
That's
not
true.
ready to hear. So maybe
Yeah.
you just need to pull back, or with your child, like maybe you need to have a conversation with them, but maybe you need to go have a cup of tea first. Like whatever they tell you to do. And so it's like you start bringing the practice into your everyday moments and everyday life.
And it's so simple, right? I mean, breathing is just so natural, but yet we forget panicking. And when you do stop to take deep breaths, your body goes into a peaceful environment rather than being stuck in that stressful situation. And, you're not in a flight or fright situation. Your body goes, oh, okay, they're breathing deeply, so I must be calm, I must be safe. So what a great message. Thank you. I think that's
Yeah,
going to
and
really
you
help.
as you breathe out too, it's like, you're relaxing, like relax as you breathe
Yeah.
out. Um and sometimes in some situations that might be all you can do for that
Yeah.
moment. And
Yeah.
it's to really acknowledge that and sit with it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
try to deny it. Like as you're feeling into your situation, or as you're asking and you're breathing and you're starting to relax and you're calling in, it's like this is when you can really start to tune in to you and what's going on with you. And if you have a day where all you do that day is just
Great.
breathe, that's all you do.
That's all you do. No,
Because sometimes we
absolutely.
can just go, I should be better. I need to handle this. I should be, and you start like beating yourself up because all you're doing is breathing. But it's like, then you can sometimes shove things into a closet. Whereas if you just kind of stay present with it and stay sitting with it in the long run, like sometimes we do park things for a while. Like it's like, okay, I got to deal with this, but not today. I got to deal with that, but not today.
Yeah.
um,
It's
yeah.
just being open for guidance and just coming back into your body. We spend so much time out of our body. We just need to keep
Mhm.
grounding back
Mhm.
into it. Absolutely love that
Bringing
message.
it back in, bringing it back in.
Yeah, I love it.
Mhm.
Thank you. I mean, it was a great reminder for me as well. And I mean, I'm proud of myself for doing that today because I had to pull myself in.
Mhm.
It's just really checking in. I mean, no matter how much you know this stuff, we are
Yeah.
human beings. You are going to get caught up in situations, and it's not about being judgmental or being hard on yourself, like you said, right? You
Mhm.
just got to be nicer to yourself and just, yeah, come back
Well,
in.
it's everything is a process. Like these things are always reminders for me too. Like I get caught up in the moment, and then it's like, oh man, and then, but as you work with the practice, doing it more and more, you'll start getting triggered in, oh, I need to just slow down here for a moment. Um, but as you as you work with it, just acknowledging that it is a process and we are perpetually learning more and we're perpetually experiencing more. So this
Mm-hmm.
angel of Raziel bringing in wisdom and knowledge is that we're always expanding. So we're always expanding every aspect of ourselves. And so when we experience things and we have a lot of trauma and we have a lot of stuff going on, we start associating things with things that happened to us in the past. Or I called in for help this time and like nothing happened, or this happened or that happened. And it's like, like that's where you have to come present again. And when we call in for help, to be as open-minded as we possibly can. Like, sometimes our own beliefs or our own experiences can kind of cloud sometimes the information. And like for me, it took a lot to get me to be open to Reiki. It took a lot and those things really did help my daughter. I mean, they didn't cure her epilepsy, but we learned a lot about relaxation, about how to help her get calm in situations. Like, it's definitely helped in many other aspects and whatnot. But when you start opening up to things, sometimes there might be guidance that you've never received before, or you might be called to try a different kind of supplement that and you never know where that information is going to come. And this is where I deal with doctors in the hospital. I'm a nurse in the hospital, but I also work very holistically. I know a lot about herbs. I know a lot about aromatherapy. And so some people kind of get in this, like, I'm only doing Western medicine. Other people, I'm only doing holistic medicine. And it's to recognize that you don't know the angels that the earth angels that are being brought into your life. There's been very, very specific moments working in the hospital where I have, for all intents and purposes, acted as an earth angel because I've been guided into a room and guided to do very specific things or have conversations with doctors that I normally would never have had. And I would even have people say, like, oh, you're my angel today and you really saved me. And at first I'd be like, I'm just your nurse. But now I'm like, um, what is being an angel too? Like, we have our angels that are out there, but then we have, and we channel different things, and we are so much vaster than we even know that we are. So sometimes creator, sometimes the angels, they work through everyday people. That woman who's just guided to pick up the phone and say, I was thinking about you and I was guided to call you. She's just following some voice in her head that's like, hey, you should do this. I mean, that's her intuition, really, that's guidance. And so always be and even like sometimes, I feel like, oh, I kind of missed the boat on that. Sometimes if you have those little moments and then, you think, oh, I never thought about that. Revisit things too. Like, if you have weird experiences and then you think afterwards, what was that all about? Like, I will go back and ask my angels and guides later, like, is there something about that I was missing? And is there something more that I need to know? Like, get used to talking to your guides, get used to talking to creator, get used to talking to the angels as if they are in the room with you. Like, just mostly it's like I telepathically have thoughts and then answers will just kind of come to my head. But, if you want to talk out loud, you can talk out loud. Like, but get used to the idea that there is so much help out there, and ask if you have questions. Just every day, you can ask the angels anything. Like, literally,
nothing's off limits.
Nothing is off limits. And so it's when I have questions now, a lot of times it's like I'll just go in a meditation like you, and I'll just call into them, and I'm like, hey, I was thinking about this. And, like, is there something more I need to know about that? Or, and the more specific you are in your requests, and the more, then when the miracles happen, you witness them, because it's like, I just asked for this, and this person just called. And so then you can start making the connections. In the past, that person may still have called you, but if you hadn't been, asking for a sign, you might not have recognized the miracle it was that that woman just called you. But because you had asked and then she responded, it's like then you can really start witnessing the magic. And there have been periods of time in my life where I have felt completely hopeless. We all go through this. So if you are without hope, even if you are completely without hope, they are still holding space. They're just holding space for you. And you don't have to believe miracles happen to actually have miracles happen.
Absolutely.
I just want to say that because some people are like, I don't know if I believe or this or that. That's not really what it's all about. And we can walk in really, really, really dark shadow sometimes, and we can really feel alone sometimes.
But we're never really alone.
We are never really alone. It's just sometimes we have to go deep to those wounds, deep into those sorrows, deep into to figure out what really matters, what really, what's worth fighting for and what's not. Like, is this something I want, or is this something I need to let go of? So if you're really struggling, again, just feel into yourself and accept. Like, if you're angry, you're angry. Like, don't just say, oh, I'm supposed to be love and light and love everybody and everything. But if you're pissed, you're pissed. You have to acknowledge those things. And then it's like figuring out, okay, and usually once you are really angry and then you start witnessing yourself as being really angry, you'll start kind of going like, okay. And then it starts getting weird. And then it's getting awkward. And then you can start going, okay, why was I reacting to that so much?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
It's so easy to go down the rabbit hole of just being angry and getting angrier and angrier and kind of forgetting why you were angry to be, at the start anyway. I think you've really given some great tips to people and some really great messages about coming back within yourself and pausing and just listening. And, I just absolutely love it because I think when you are going through stuff, it's kind of hard to believe how much help is really out there. And I think if I was granted a wish, my wish would be for every person on this earth to experience just for a day, even for 10 minutes, given power so they can see how much help is actually around them with their guides, angels, ancestors, God, all the directions, Mother Earth, Father Sky. Like if people actually got to see how much help is around them, nothing would be too hard. You'd know that there's a reason why you're going through it, and it's just to up level to the next thing in your journey. Because if things are good, how are you going to learn from them? You don't learn in the happy times. You learn only when things get hard, right?
Yeah. If everything had gone perfect in my life and my daughter hadn't had the issues that she'd had and I hadn't gotten divorced, like I feel like I probably would have ended up on my path in some way, shape, or form. But the deep, for me, with my work and the work that I've been doing recently, working with people, and like I really am drawn to sort of looking at the dialogue, looking at how we've experienced things, how even we like women, men, whatever, but a lot of it is like how we were expected to behave, how we're expected to react, how we're expected to be, and how we're expected to work through traumas, how we're expected to deal with like hard situations, and really um, like there's no sugarcoating some of the deep sorrows and pain that we go through. There's no, but what I have learned is as I work with it as a nurse now, and as I work with my clients now, if I'm working with somebody who is going through something with a child or is going through a divorce, I understand it on such a deep level, and I've witnessed it and I've been there, and it doesn't scare me because I've work, like I can see how there's, even when, I can hold hope, or I can hold space, or I can just be present. And a lot of times, in those moments, if you ever or have somebody who's going through a lot of stuff, and we always like, I don't know the right words, I don't know what to say, and then people can just like, well, then they'll avoid you because they just don't know what to say. Mostly you don't need to say anything at all. You just need to be present with that person, hold space with them, hug them, hold their hand, bring them some tea, just so that they know that you're there.
Well,
They just so they know you're there.
yeah,
And
and
I feel like, you and I, as we work through this, it's one of the things that we can bring even to the people out, who might be listening today, who are going through some of this stuff. We don't have all the answers. That's creator and angels. We channel, we guide, we have these conversations because we're led to be talking about these topics today. But on a human level as well, you're not alone. There are people
absolutely.
out there, and that's all that I want people to bring to people is my presence.
That's beautiful, and there's nothing greater than a presence of a person around you when you need it the most. I think
Mm-hmm.
the message here for me so clearly is that if we can have two broken mums here, at one stage we were broken, talking about hope, miracles, abundance, and, holding space for people when we have gone through it. And not many people held our hands, but if we can sit here and advocate for it, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's hope enough for other people to go, no matter what you're dealing with. And that's not to belittle anyone's situation, because every situation, every pain is
Mm-hmm.
different. But from a space where we've come from, where there's not much hope for our children, but then we've chosen to see it in a brighter
Mm-hmm.
light, where we know that these girls have come here to teach us. And, it's given us so much hope. I just I just pray that people listening to this podcast and watching it will also experience, no matter what they're going through, that there's always hope. With faith, you can get through
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Yeah. And as a mom who's been there, it's hard sometimes to focus on yourself because you're so
Mm-hmm.
focused on your children or your situation sometimes. But to take even brief moments during the day to just breathe and feel into yourself. And the number one message that I have been telling people to in the energy field now is we have been isolated or we have felt alone. There are people out there to reach out to. And if it's, something that you've been thinking, oh, maybe I should check into that, check into it. Step
Mm.
out of, step out of the box. Sometimes we just need to step out of the box to see what's, on the other side of that box. Um,
And not caring what
there's,
people are going to think about you.
oh, I gave up on that one. I really have
Yeah,
given up on
yeah. I mean, I have to. I
yeah.
I come from an Indian background where maybe this stuff is taboo to some degree. We're very religious, but I think spirituality wise, there's still a lot of work to be done. For some
Yeah.
people, me doing Reiki would be, maybe they see me as like a witch. but
Mhm.
but when you look at history, I mean, I'm just finding out more and more stuff because I love to read, and I found out that Jesus actually went to India to learn Reiki himself, and the energy healing he was doing. Sorry, the healing work that he was doing was actually energy work, right?
Mhm.
It's all energy. So, and I don't care. I really don't care what people think about me, because I'm speaking my truth, and my purpose is to bring hope to other people. And I know that's my purpose. So even if people think I'm crazy, I'm going to still put myself out there, because I feel that's Nisha's mission as well. And I've made it my mission to give hope to people. And I know that's
Mhm.
yours as well.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I came to this epiphany moment a few years back now, where I realized once I started meeting my people that I lived a long time where I was too far out there for a lot of people, but not far enough out to meet my people. So, if you're authentic and true to yourself, your people are waiting for you. And
Absolutely.
sometimes, relationships shift or change. But part of the evolution of finding ourselves is following our heart. And if you're following your heart, like sometimes I even have thought myself, am I crazy? But and I just am like, well, I'm having a good time if I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is better than a bad time.
Yeah, and I think I actually want to remind people as well, if you are finding yourself in a place where you are shedding the old, you are finding yourself, self shifting from your old group of friends or family, I think it is all part of the ascension, process. We are like, I've lost a lot of friends because I just, not that, nothing's happened, but holistically you sort of drift apart. I think it's all part of the process. But like you said, your people are out there. You almost need to just put it to the universe. Universe, bring my people to me, and then you will be surprised. I mean, not because I know you the work. You know the work, but people listening, how the universe will start shifting the right people into your space and taking out the ones that don't need to be in your energy anymore. So it is really all about asking and then waiting for the miracle to happen.
Absolutely. I learned
Thank you.
through COVID. COVID was such a dire time and really dark shadow on the planet.
Mm.
But COVID also brought me my people, because a part of the work that I do now is international. A lot of I don't actually do a lot of the holistic healing. I'm starting to try to find ways to start being in person more now that we're allowed to be in person again.
Mhm.
But I work with people, and I have friends now, and we don't some people I've never actually met in person, but through Zoom and through meetings and stuff like that. Like we sit, like even you and I, like we can just sit and
Yeah,
talk, like almost like we're having a cup of tea, and you're like in the like
yeah.
energetically, it's like you're in the room with me, so it doesn't really matter where you
No.
are. And it's like you start finding, for me, I found my people all over the world, all
Yeah,
over
it's
the
amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's what COVID's done, right? It's created this, well, the distance is gone now because you can literally, like you said, have a cup of coffee with someone across the world. I mean, that just takes me back to the first time when I met you. It was on a Zoom call when we did I booked you in for a Reiki session. I actually think I won that session with you through Corinne's work.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to tell you, it's one of the most powerful healing energy work I've ever experienced. I remember I was sitting downstairs on my couch. You were all, across the world in Canada, and when you started the work, because I feel energy, obviously,
Mhm.
but it came so intense. I literally had energy swirling around me on top of my head. I was just like in this whirlwind of energy. It was just so beautiful. So I just want to tell people that Reiki does not, there's no time or distance with Reiki or any energy work. You could be across the world and experience an amazing energy work. So that takes me to the next question. Where can people actually find you if they do want to book you in for a session?
They can find me. I have a website right now, angelessence.ca. And I have a website. You can read more about my bio and stuff on there. I have offerings on there, and there's different sessions that are available through that. On Facebook, I'm in the process of launching another project. I don't know how to call it right now, called Wild Souls Rising. So on
Mhm.
Facebook, if you Wild Souls Rising, I'm going to be on there, but we're actually going to be in the next probably couple weeks launching something
Nice.
there where it's probably going to be like a monthly thing where we do channelings and teachings, and through that start to offer more workshops and things like that too. So that's coming soon. But the Facebook group is already there, so you can already go on to Wild Souls Rising and find me there. And you can send me messages through Messenger if you want to, or you can through the angelessence.c. So I have a website, Heather at Angelessence. as well, where you can send me a message, an email message, and reach out. And if I have a lot of friends and connections now, healers all over who do work in many different modalities. So even if it's something that I can't specifically help, not that I think there's pretty much anybody can do anything, but if you're looking for specific things and I don't particularly offer it, if I don't offer it, I have friends that do, and I'm more than happy to refer people to other people as well, because we're all a big community, and that's what we need to start building is community. And so my Facebook group is all about building community.
I love it. Okay, cool. I'll grab some information off you after we get off, and then I'll put it in my show notes. So if people do want to connect, they just need to click and they'll get to the right place.
Yeah, I'll give you a promotional code too that you can put up there too for people so that they can get like a discount off of. I'll offer people discounts, like 20% off all of my services if you'd like.
I love it. That's a bonus, guys. So if you are interested, I will put the code in the show notes. So make sure you click on it. Okay, so now my very, very last question is, I know you're a new grandmother 18 months ago. So you had a baby, a granddaughter. So my question to you is, what have you learned after becoming a grandmother that you know for sure?
What I learned about being a grandmother is enjoy every moment that you have with your children and your family. I remember people saying to me when my kids were little, "Oh, and enjoy it, because it won't last forever." And sometimes I thought, "Oh my gosh, this seems endless. Like, I don't know what people are talking about." And enjoy, like, I remember I went to New Zealand once when my daughter was 15. My brother lives in New Zealand. And I was worried because I had a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and my youngest one wasn't in school yet, but I was like, oh, should I take them out of school or should I not? And take them out of school, take the trips, take the time, build experiences, and just be present, and pick your battles. That's all. Pick, because sometimes it's like I would think, oh well, I don't know about that, and then because I was parented a different way, and it's like, follow your heart. Like, if you always call into your heart, feel yourself grounded, take those deep breaths, feel into your space, bring me the right words, and help my children to listen. Same with anybody. Your children just need you to be present.
Absolutely.
And so I take every opportunity I can to be present, and learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. It happens in going to the zoo or going on a trip or going on a vacation. And, unless they're in grade 12 and I'm trying to get into university, they'll catch up.
They'll catch up. Absolutely. I think we put too much emphasis on education. There's more to education than within a classroom. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like,
I love it.
Even when she cries and gets upset, it's like, it's hard for her to cry and get upset around me, because it's like, I love it even when she's crying.
Yeah.
Like, I see her little spirit, and she's like getting all feisty, and I'm like, yeah, be a fighter.
And that's cheering for you on the side. Well, you just light up. Like, honestly, when you talk about her, you light up. I can see how much joy she's brought into your life.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's probably a good place to end. Where we've had this really nice conversation, and I know it's going to empower people that are listening to, no matter what they're going through, that there's always a way, there's hope, and you can get through anything. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we end this conversation?
No, I love the message of empowerment. That is when I do my work, when I do my sessions, when I even now, everything to me is about self-empowerment. You're your own best teacher. You're your own healer. You're your own guide. And if you have guidance and intuition, and even if it goes against what everybody else around you thinks or feels, if this feels right to you, and if you need to take a few extra moments to just take a couple of more breaths and feel into it, or take a day or two or whatever you need. But if you have guidance, if you feel, even if it's the weirdest things or against the grain of what you normally would do, start to listen to that voice within and empower yourself. Empowerment is like, it's everything I do is about empowerment.
And
I don't want to be everybody's healer. I want everybody to be their own healer, and I want to help you be that healer.
Yeah, I want everyone to find the magic inside of them as well. So I know exactly what you mean. And I can vouch for that, because when we initially, because I was sitting there and it's going, okay, who's my next? Because I've got a few people planned for, to be a guest on my podcast, and you came in quite strong. So I know Creator was bringing you to me. And then I sort of said, okay, like maybe we can talk about law of attraction. And then one day when I was sitting, I think I was on my holiday in Australia, and I was quite connected. I was like, by the sea, and I clearly thought and knew that it was coming from Creator, that he wanted us to chat about empowerment. So when I said that to you, like, oh my God, yes, I'm all about empowerment. And I was like, thank God I tuned into my intuition and didn't just disregard it as a thought, but I tuned in and I was like, no, this is what Creator wants us to talk about. So I think that's why it's been such a beautiful message today, because a lot of people are suffering, and if we can give them hope, then we've done our job.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much, Heather, for being here. It's been such a wonderful conversation, and I hope to have you back again so we can have another beautiful conversation.
Absolutely. All of our talk about, we'll talk about some grounding and some technique, different things.
Look where we ended up.
Time.
Yes, we'll get you to share some spiritual tools, definitely. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. We'll reconnect with you again.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.